Hello, everyone. How you doing? How's everything going? I guess that suffering a lot with the heat. Hopefully not. Hopefully you are under a fresh shadow or having cold drinks to bear the best possible all these difficulties of the summer. And talking about difficulties, we are here today to talk about the updates on this difficult challenge called AD5 Generalist Graduates Competition. This is the purpose of today's webinar, to update you on the latest changes introduced by EPSO in the notice on competition. What has changed? What remains the same? How can I tackle it? How can I confront the competition? And some other news that we thought will be useful for you. So let's go for it quite fast. So first of all, recapitulate some numbers. These are no news. I mean, this is something that we already shared with you in the past. The facts, the number of candidates that we have, 100,074, so 174,922 candidates. From now on, we will say 175,000. I think we can bear that rounding up number. So on that, EPSO mentioned that 91% of the applicants are currently not working for the European institutions. What does it mean? That we have more or less around 15,000 who work Brussels, Luxembourg, Strasbourg, and any other place, agencies, sub entities, and so on, meaning that all those who are not probably officers already, and they apply for this competition. And in any case, the beauty of this competition, whether you are part of the institution or not, is that all of you are going through the same process. So don't think that those in Brussels will have an advantage compared to you who are in Rome, Madrid, Barcelona, in a small town in Castile or a small town in Normandy. Doesn't matter. All of you have the same chances. So it will depend on your work and it will depend on your good performance. Make it clear. That's one thing. But second thing about the numbers, if we compare with the past, here in Ya Somos Europeos, we love to compare to the past, learn from the history, learn from our own story. As we were sometimes in the past, we were candidates, and also we were been helping you for several years. So look back and we see, okay, 2015, that was a big year in terms of candidates, and in terms of seats, it was 149, rounding up to 150 if you want seats, but for 30,400 candidates, meaning that the proportion between the candidates in 2015, between seats and candidates, and now seats and candidates, 2015 it was much worse. So it was far more difficult. It was more than 200 candidates per seat, while here now we are facing less 100 something, give it or take, for each seat. So just the parting point. It's not going to be the most difficult competition ever. Not at all. Please don't think that it's not for you because it's going to be impossible. No, not at all. We will see that it's still very possible for all of you. And it doesn't matter if you are coming from Italy, from Hungary, Sweden, Ireland. It doesn't matter. All of you are at the same level, same departing point, same conditions, same opportunities. That's important. Also, another element of fact that we want to share with you is the fact that most of the candidates have chosen the following combination. The language one, your native language, usually, and the language two, English. This is around a proportion of 3 out of 4 candidates for this competition have selected this combination of languages. We run a survey among our followers in social media, but also our students and so on. From the hundreds of answers that we got, that was the picture. It was clear that English is the main second language, while the first language is mostly the native one. What happens if I'm a native British speaker, English speaker from Ireland, Malta, from so on? So most of the times, depends. They will choose differently. They may choose as a language one English and language two the other language that they master, or they prefer to do the reasoning in a second language that they work well, and they decide to go for the English in the knowledge, writing, and digital skills. So there are several combinations, but most of the candidates, probably if you are watching this video, is your case as well. native language first, second language English. That's clear. Those are facts. So far, we're only talking about facts, not opinions. And we go now with some elements that can be expected. And also, we will share with you where we are getting these crazy ideas. So, first of all, the fact that you are not facing competition with 170,000 candidates. Yeah, on paper, that's it. On paper. But the truth is that we have learned from previous competitions that up to 30% of the candidates, they don't show up. That's something that has happened consistently in many EPSO competitions. Why? Because the exam is very easy to apply, true. I mean, compared with other competitions, with some other job opportunities in other entities, it's relatively easy. First, second, it's only one day that you can take the exam, and maybe you are not available that date. Also, we've seen it. I mean, we're not admitting we've seen it. People who forget when the exam is, or they just register, but as it takes so much time between the registration time and the exam, they completely forgot about the competition, about everything, and they didn't check. So all these things happen, many things. I mean, I'm not counting those who, with a good excuse, couldn't take the exam. I got sick the day of the exam. I got my medical certificate. Then those will be allowed by EPSO to retake the exam later if you have a official excuse, a good reason. But those are minimal. These are few compared to the big numbers that you see there, up to 30% who won't show up on the exam. They will never hear again of them. So already you can think that more than 50,000 candidates who will never be there. So meaning that you already are competing against 120,000, more or less. So as a departing point, not bad. I mean, already 30% are gone. Good. So also some numbers that we run. We will come back on that. I mean, if EPSO takes the exam, organize the exam for 10,000 candidates per day, still they will need minimum 18 days to examine everyone, because they cannot assume that people won't show up. They have to assume that everybody will show up and take the exam. That's the departing point to avoid further problems. So 18 days to take the exam for everyone, plus 2 days for as a backup for any issues. So in total, 20 working days, meaning 4 weeks. So it's gonna take time, the reasoning. It's gonna take time, the exams. So that's again numerical truth, reality. That's the reality of the competition. So as I mentioned before, that I didn't remember the right figures, but sorry for that. So in 2026, we have one seat for it's 117 candidates, and we're counting all the candidates. If we go to the number of candidates without the 30%, is less than 100 for one seat. So compare that to 2015, more than double. And we know that it's possible. We were there. We know quite well how it went on 2015. We saw that competition firsthand. So we assure you that it was more than possible. So this time again, I mean, but we promise you one thing. If you go to the exam, to the EPSO exam thinking, oh, it's impossible. I cannot do it. Too many people, too difficult, too everything. You will be right. You will fail. I mean, we are sure about that. But on the contrary, if you think I can do it, I can make it. I've done my part. I've been practicing. I've been training myself and everything. You have done your share. Chances are there. Don't think that you're doing anything. If you remain calm, you take the exam with a good attitude, thinking that you can do it. Chances are there. So that's why we say, as a first, just some surplus message, as our first advice, this is possible and easier than you think. Don't expect it's not impossible. This is not. You don't need to be Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. On the contrary, you just need to be an ordinary candidate doing things right in order to pass. We've seen it. We have helped people to do that. We know also cases that they didn't do it by themselves. So, I mean, guys, think about your chances. Think that your opportunity is in front of you. And if we continue about the news and the new aspects and the modification in the notice, we go to this detail. So, important changes. From one day to take the exam, now we're moving to 2 days. What do you mean? Simple. They just split apart the exams. Remember that we already in previous webinar we mentioned about potential scenarios. We already thought about that idea of splitting apart the exams. So this is it. How it's going to be? First day, first exam. It's going to be verbal, numerical, and abstract, the classic reasoning test. In the past, this was known as CBT, computer-based test, but that was in the past. Nowadays, it's just verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning test. That will be the first day. And if you pass the reasoning, I mean, just passing, getting 10 out of 20 in verbal, 10 out of 20 in the combination between numerical and abstract, you are automatically invited to the second test day. Knowledge, digital skills, and written. But you need to pass. They don't promediate, they don't do anything. You need to pass first the reasoning. But wait, there was some consideration for the, yes, absolutely. But for the moment, you go to the first day of wherever the date is provided by EPSO, because of course, if they examine people every day, 10,000 to say something, so you will be given one date. You cannot negotiate the dates. That on that EPSO has already been clear. You cannot choose. You will be given the date, and you have to accept that one. Okay, that also please bear that in mind. So you go for the first exam, you pass it, and you get invited. If you don't show up for the first exam, forget it. You are out of the competition. It's not that, but I cannot take the second part. No, you are out. So you need to take the first part and pass it. These two conditions are necessary. The beauty of also of this is that you will get the results of the reasoning before the second test. So we don't know yet if you will be given the exact results or you will just receive a letter saying, congratulations, you passed the reasoning, you go to the second part. In the past, they usually didn't, when you pass the competition, or sorry, when you pass the test, you never got the results of the test before the final results of the competition. Meaning that in the past, when there was this reasoning and after an assessment, you got a letter inviting you to the assessment saying, congratulations, you passed the reasoning. Now you are invited to the assessment. And that's it. You didn't get the numerical result at that time in many competitions. In some others there was, but in many you didn't get it. So don't expect you to know your results. You just expect to get a letter saying, congratulations, you're invited to the second test. That's good enough for the moment. If you don't pass, you will get an email saying, sorry to tell you, but you fail, and these are your results. In that case, you just get the score. If you pass, you don't get the score until the end. More or less, that's the scenario that we are managing. So remember, if you don't show up, you're automatically either the test one or test two, you fail. So the thing is that after the second test, your knowledge, digital skills, and written tests, the knowledge will be scored first. And from there, they will establish the ranking. They will start establish the rankings. Then the digital skill test will be scored, and they will add up the two digital knowledge plus writing to establish who has to be review the writing. No matter what, if you are invited to the second test, you are doing the writing test. You are doing it. An invitation to the second test automatically brings you to do the writing test. But only if you are on the top score, you will see your SSI review assess score by EPSO. That's the thing. And once ranked, your rating will be reviewed if you're on the 2,000 to 235 candidates, as I say. So top score. That's it. Those are this is in the notice. This is in the new notice, and as you see, it's quite similar to the old notice. It's only that the split between one test and the second test that we see the difference, and the fact that you get some results after the first test in order to know if you are invited to the second part or not. Those are the main changes, because at the level of scoring remains exactly the same. Remember that this is extracted from the notice. So the combined score before the written test, before evaluating the written test, is verbal 40%, knowledge 30%, digital 30%, meaning multiplying by 0.4, 0.3, 0.3. That's it. So if we do like this, the maximum score you can get is 29 points. So imagine that you get the final results at the end and you get 27 points. That's a good result. 28, excellent. 29, perfect. 30, impossible. You get the point. I mean, so that's a maximum threshold according to this weighting system. And from there, they will establish a ranking. So, and the first 2,235 candidates will see their written test review. We say slightly more because experience tells us that sometimes at the end, I mean, imagine that the threshold, imagine the passing mark for seeing your writing review it's let's say 26 points. Just imagine 26 points, and suddenly they reach 2,235 candidates when only half of the candidates with 26 points are included. But we have another number of dozens of candidates who have 26 points as well. So what can we do? Usually in these cases, EPSO counts them in. Usually EPSO, what they do is just they enlarge the number of candidates that they are reviewing. This is not a rule. This is up to the criteria of EPSO, because they also could say the contrary. They say, okay, instead of 26, we will put 27, and the number will be slightly lower than 2,235. It's up to them. Usually, our experience in previous competitions is that EPSO decide to enlarge the number. That's the usual case. But as there are many candidates here, we're talking about thousands. We don't know yet. We cannot assure you, but experience tells us that usually EPSO on this part it goes in favor of the candidates. So hopefully this time will be the same case. So more of you get your writing review. And with that, we'll go the final score. You will see your writing review. And here the weighting changed a little bit. The verbal reduces 5 points, so to 35%, 0.35. Your knowledge as well, 5 points, and digital, another 5. And all these 5 points go to the writing. So meaning the 50%, 15% goes to the writing. So in total, you can score 26 points then as a final score. And from there, a ranking will be established, and then 1,490 candidates will see your names on the list. Could be slightly more by the same criteria as I mentioned before. If there are even results at the end, EPSO may decide to enlarge the list or also to shorten the list. There is no obligation to have 1,490 candidates. If there is final same result at the end of the list, they may decide to shorten it a little bit or to enlarge it. Depends, up to EPSO. Usually they prefer to enlarge it, unless this create a big difference of the number of candidates. But again, we have on the good thing that EPSO does is that they usually fail in favor of the candidates that they tend to enlarge the list. That's what we have seen in the past. But please don't take it as a rule. It's just experience from previous years. So better if you get a very good score, so you are on the top of the tops, so you don't depend on the final criteria to select the final ones. So you are on the top, you're already in, and that's the best thing that can happen. So you are wondering, okay, but yeah, you mentioned what is what the top scores, how it's gonna be, but how much, how many points can I expect to be the ones I need to pass the competition and so on? Honestly, we don't know, and nobody can tell at this moment. Why? I mean, but I've been told that it's gonna be 26, 27, 30, 35. No, they're lying. They're lying in the good sense, in the sense that nobody knows because it depends on several factors. It will depend on the final number of people taking the exam. Simple as that. More people take the exam. By pure statistics, some people will perform good, others will do poorly. So but at the end, the threshold will go higher because they are better scores. Or more frequently, they are good scores, just by simple percentage of people who are taking the exam. So that's one thing. And also the difficulty of the exam. If they ask you very simple questions, I promise you that the top scores will be the highest possible. So 29, 26 points. If they ask you how many member states are in the European Union, 27. Okay, if you get that question, unless you are just too tired, too block, too nervous, and you don't see the answer, everybody will get a point. For instance, if you get these kind of questions, everybody will get high scores. If you get a question like, in the Article 43 of the Treaty of Function of the European Union, in the point 2, do they say or, with, and, or maybe? What? I don't know. Nobody knows. Maybe a couple of people knows, but most of the candidates, 99% of the candidates, they have no clue about this. If you get this kind of impossible questions, of course, marks will be low because only very few got it right, and some others got it right by pure chance. So that's the thing. Depends on the difficulty of the exam and the number of candidates. Results will be higher or lower. As we don't know yet how many candidates are taking the exam for good, and we don't know the content of the exam. So we just keep preparing ourselves for a demanding exercise, for a demanding exam, and from there we will see. So always prepare for the worst, expecting the best. That's our advice as well. And then we continue. Some extra inputs that are not in the notice of competition, but they were announced by EPSO several times. So they announced that the exam will take place between October and November, or at least the beginning of the exam. What makes sense because we saw that they need at least 4 weeks in order to examine everybody. If we assume in 10,000 candidates, maybe they include a few more, few less. We will see. So with that into consideration, yes, they have to start more or less October, beginning of November. End of October, beginning of November, they want to examine everybody in more or less 1 month. Because imagine they start end of November, they are getting into Christmas time. That usually EPSO avoids to catch a competition in the middle of the holidays because it's not fair for the candidates. There are a lot of complaints, a lot of issues. So whatever they do, they have to be done by Christmas time. So that's why your exams should start end of November, end of October, beginning of November. The window that we're managing, yes, end of October, beginning of November as the main period for the exam. Get ready for that. Can we expect the exam early October? I mean, it's not impossible because EPSO just give this time frame as an orientative. It's not official in the sense that it's not on the notice, but still, it's difficult. There are other competitions coming that probably will have their exams earlier. For instance, auditors has been announced for the end of September. IT profiles are having the 4 IT profiles competition. It's not yet announced as we speak, but probably will be beginning of October, we think. So your competition, AD5 graduates, will come after. That's why second half of October, end of October, November. Then they say that the second test will take place in the first half of 2027, but there is no official indication. So it could be later. Yes, could be. I think, and this is an honest attempt from EPSO, that if it's in their hands, technically it's feasible, they will do everything to organize your exam on the first half of 2027. When? It could be January, it could be June. We have the 2 months announcement of the document of the booklet that has also EPSO insisted again or confirm this element. So it's a kind of canary in the mine. This is a warning trigger that we know that the moment they publish the EU knowledge booklet, we have 2 months. Honestly, publishing this booklet before the end of the year 2026, we see it quite difficult. So we think more likely that it will be published after Christmas, meaning January, February could be, meaning you count 2 months. So the EU knowledge write and test is digital skills exam, we expect it will happen end of March, April, May. Also to take into consideration Easter time, as not to get in the middle. So, and also to be seen how many candidates are left, because it's not the same if you have 100,000 candidates left or you have 20,000 candidates left. I'm saying to extremes scenarios. I think we think that it will be something in the middle, around 60,000, 70,000 candidates invited to the second part. And then important piece of fake news that we have here too many people. Okay, the reasoning test will be more difficult. Yeah, after considering all these numbers, they're gonna introduce a very impossible reasoning test, especially for Italians. This gonna be very, very difficult because they're taking the exam in Italian, so they will be penalized. All those are fake news, guys. We already knew that the reasoning test will be difficult in your competition. Remember that, for instance, when we design our trainings, we always design taking as reference the AD5 graduates level from previous years because we know it's the most difficult one. Why? How come? But they didn't ask for experience, yeah. But you have more candidates than any other competition, not only this year, previous years. So meaning that you need to classify, you need to, in the good sense and with all due respect, they have to get rid of candidates in order to select fewer. So that's why they have to put a threshold, high threshold of difficulty for this exam. So that's why the reasoning, we knew always that it's going to be difficult. This is not news. And for the languages, it doesn't matter. I mean, they are not going to customize according to the languages. They customize the exam, and after that, they translate or they do the arrangement. There are arrangements for the questions, but they are not set according to the language. They are overall set for all the languages the same thing. So no differences. No expect anything at all. We think that the EPSO will be do an extra effort to take care of the translations of the reasoning, because there's always been some controversy of the translations, but also important or best advice we can give you for the reasoning, especially verbal reasoning. It's not an exam about knowledge of the language. Forget it. It's about reasoning with the language. So I know that usually you're taking in your native language the reasoning test, but forget it. Don't get overconfident. I mean, try to extract information. Sometimes things may be not fully clear, but maybe also could be part of the exam, could be part of the difficulty of the exercise. It's not a question of proposing you a neat, beautiful prose, a beautiful sentence. It's a question of creating some struggle in your mind to get the solution of the exercise. So always treat the verbal reasoning as a reasoning, not as something that is just purely verbal to say how good you are in the language. No, it's how good you are with the reasoning. Careful with that. Hope this is clear. So, because we are approaching to the conclusions. So, first conclusion, it's going to be a long process. You already saw it. I mean, because we mentioned that the second exam probably first half of 2027. But wait, they have to correct more than 2,000 written tests. That's going to take a long time. So results, in best case scenario, we're expecting them end of 2027. We are recording this webinar in mid 2026, so it's more than a year ahead. So it's going to be a long process. So here it's going to be very, very important, your resilience, your patience, your endurance. I mean, guys, this is part of the challenge. It's part of the competition. Those who don't desperate, those who don't just abandon, desist. No, you are here. You want a position in the commission. You want to work for the institutions. Keep working. Keep going, because at the end you will get it, but it will take time. That's granted. Important. All the changes introduced in the interest of competition were what we qualify as more technical or for the logistics. The competition in itself remained the same. The criteria, everything is the same. It's only that you split the exam in two. You have some considerations for technical reasons, but in substance remains exactly the same thing. Last advice we can give you on this part of conclusion is take advantage of the summer. Man, have some rest. I mean, I know some of you are thinking, no, I will use the summer to keep studying reasoning, a lot of reasoning, and also will study some new knowledge. And fine. I mean, every one of you knows how is your life, the amount of time you have during the week when you are working on ordinary conditions and so on. But I already mentioned, it's going to be a long competition. It's going to take long. You will have plenty of time between the reasoning test and taking the second test. So our advice from Ya Somos Europeos, you have time. So take time to rest, to recover, to gather your stamina and your energy, because you will need it. And after that, you start studying, preparing for the reasoning. So important to give yourself time for yourself to recover, and then time for the preparation. But don't think that now in August, in the summer, is the time to just only study preparing yourself. You will burn out. That's the truth. So give yourself some time for resting, and give yourself some time for preparation, because as we say there, and we have our croqueta there giving you advice is you have time to the competition, but not time to waste. So meaning, and resting, recovering is good investment. It's not squandering the time. It's not wasting your time. If you're really relaxing, enjoying the beach, enjoying the mountain, enjoying doing nothing, having time with your friends, with your family, that's excellent. That's fantastic. Don't cheat yourself and say, I'm going to study and I do nothing, because that's awful. At the end, you don't feel good. But no, I'm going to rest for the next 2 weeks. I'm doing nothing. I'm having my holidays. Perfect. And after that, I'm starting. Great. That's a good plan. But don't sacrifice the time for yourself. So keep a balance. You need yourself, you need your strength, your stamina, your mind, your clear mind for this reasoning part. It's not about studying a lot. It's about practicing with quality, not with quantity. That's important. And some other conclusions. time to focus on the reasoning, of course, as we mentioned, but quality before quantity. In that sense, we want to raise a warning. We know that now with artificial intelligence, with ChatGPT and with others, we are thinking of, oh, create me a lot of exercises. Good. Yeah. Okay, fine. They can be helpful to practice some elements. But at the end, what are you gaining by doing a lot of exercises? What's the point? Or experience as candidates. At the time when there was no artificial intelligence, fine, but still, we didn't use so many exercises to pass the competitions. We used a selected part of exercise that allow us to practice, to learn from our mistakes. That's why we say learn from your mistakes, because that's the most important thing. Learn from your mistakes. Practicing a lot is not quality. Learning from your mistakes is quality. Quantity doesn't serve. I mean, yeah, everybody knows a case, a fantastic case who did thousands of exercises of reasoning and pass. Yeah, I mean, no doubt. But we know hundreds of cases that instead of doing thousands of exercises, they did dozens, fewer in quantity, but higher in quality. They spend time reviewing it, learning from the mistakes. That was where the real difference was created. We think that with 2 months before the exam, with few hours per week, can be more than enough. I mean, no, but no, I'm ready to spend 8 hours per day practicing reasoning. If you do so, we think that in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, probably you will burn out. Because reasoning is not learning. It's not in the sense that you can study the law, the code of law by heart. Because it's not pure knowledge, it's reasoning. It's just moving your brain. And for that, you need time to refresh, time to put some oxygen in your brain. So that's why quality before quantity. Few hours per week do much better than few hours per day, every day, without rest, without anything. And in 2 months, that should be more than enough, even if you're starting from scratch. And I bet that if you are following us, you have already started. You already have some part of the path already walk. Perfect. Or even if you are just right at the beginning, still there is enough time. So, but in order to give you some oxygen, in order to give you some to refresh, sometimes go to the new knowledge, sometimes or to the digital or to practice the writing. I'm not saying you dedicate a lot of hours, but dedicate some time in order to change, to make things different. Because if you do all the time reasoning, at the end, the day of the exam, you will see the reasoning test and you will, I cannot. I mean, I already fed up with reasoning. We don't want that. We want you to go to the reasoning test and being eager, saying, okay, let's go for it. Get ready. So that's our third SMS best message. The advice from the Croqueta is only preparing the reasoning training will burn you. I mean, that's clear. So you need to keep a balance. That's why we mentioned refresh yourself, have some rest, use the summer in your advantage. But at the same time, be professional, be responsible, dedicate some hours after the summer break, 2 months. So we're saying October, November. So just beginning end of August, beginning of September, it's more than enough to get ready for October. So should be more if we are responsible, of course. If you do nothing, but I started in September. Well, in reality, I didn't start in September because I was doing nothing. You know, there was one weekend I have a travel, another weekend I have a party, another weekend I was just sleeping, another weekend. Okay, when did you study? When did you do something? I'm not saying you do a lot, but do something. So be responsible, use the time wisely, and you will have time for everything. That's our experience as candidates. We have seen it works, and it's what we are advising to all of you, or chocolatiers or not, candidates or not, within Yasemos, in order to succeed in this competition. And I say this competition, but what about other competitions? Probably you're wondering, some other news, because in the meantime, EPSO published the calendar for the rest of the year, 2026. You see, there are several profiles: ICT experts, the data management, lawyer linguists, and lawyers. This is the calendar for the rest of the year. Are there going to be other competitions? For the moment, it's very unlikely. I mean, we think that these 5 competitions are going to be the last ones of the year because already EPSO is quite collapsed. I mean, busy with your competition with the AD5. But if you're thinking about these others, put them in your radar. When it's going to be the exam, we don't know. To be seen the type of test that they include, the condition, the requirements, and some others. But probably any of this competition will be, the exams will be between the exam number one and exam number two of the AD5 competitions. So you can expect end of the year, beginning of 2027 as the time frame for the competitions. Of course, for ICT experts, we may see the exams in November, December, but for instance, for the lawyers, it's clearly 2027, guys, because it's closing in January 2027. So what about the conditions and the exams? Honestly, we don't know. In the good sense, I'm saying. I mean, we may have an idea from previous years, but we don't want to tell you now in advance because when the notice comes, things may be different. So we prefer the day we get the notice of competition published. Remember, we will announce our webinar, and we invite you to follow us, to follow this channel or social media in order to know when we are organizing our webinars and explaining the notice of competition, the different tests, sources to study, and everything. So you know us, you can check all the previous webinars. You know, it's there. So we invite you for that. And okay, but lawyers is ending in January 2027. What about 2027? Do we know? Yes, there's been some announcements for 2027. We see that it's this is another law competition to be seen how it's going to be related to the previous one, March for assistance in the parliament, and probably the one that is triggering more interest or reactions is the one on security, defense, and international affairs. I know we remember that there have been competitions on international affairs in the past. There will be plenty of them, but they were difficult. They attracted a lot of attention. Hopefully, not 175,000 candidates, but still, they got plenty of attention and different criteria. We've seen all kinds from an AD5 when they asked for 1 year of experience. That was a few years ago. For an AD7s in parallel, AD6. We will see. We say this because we keep getting questions about, oh, do you know anything about international affairs? What will be the level, the questions? Can I start preparing now? The answer is, guys, we don't dare to organize any training at this moment because things could be different. We don't know if the right answers will be like that or field related or shortest questionnaire. There will be many difference. And the multiple choice could be the classic, like one we know, 30 questions, or could be a completely different test, that part. So until we don't have the notice with us, we don't dare to say. But there is one thing that we think we are, I wouldn't say 100%, but 99% sure is about the reasoning test. On that part, the reasoning test are key basic exercise. So far, I don't think that there's been any EPSO competition in the last 10 years that didn't include a reasoning test. So that's the only one that you can start preparing. If you're preparing already for the AD5 competition, the reasoning test, don't worry, you don't need to worry. You already have that in common for the coming competitions. You don't need to do an extra effort. It's there. It's already a well done job. So on that part, just prepare the reason if you are interested in this competition concretely and not in the AD5 or any other. Still, the reasoning is there. And talking about the reasoning, I will mention another extra point of information in 2 slides because remember, for the overall of the competitions, it doesn't matter if it's the AD5 graduates, lawyers, international affairs, economists, ICT, whatever the profile, whatever is your competition, only your work matters. That's your experience. There are no shortcuts. There are no miracles. Whatever you do, if you do it right, if you do it with good head, with quality, not quantity, you focus, it will pay off. We cannot promise you that you will pass the next competition exactly, but we promise you in our experience with our candidates, we've seen it, it works. If you work well, if you do the things right, you're going to pass. It's a matter of time. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the day after, but in weeks, months, it will go, you will get there, but you need to do the things right. Not many people does it, so that's why they don't pass. So only your work matters, but when you do the right work, this is important. So it was not von der Leyen who said it, but almost. So that's why we have our special von der Leyen there to help you. And talking about the reasoning, so and in this scenario we brought some differences, so we brought novelties in the sense that remember that we have our training for the reasoning test, but we used to have Spanish and English that were the most common languages for our candidates in the past, but the truth is that we have been enlarging the number of croquetillas of our students or candidates who are with us, and many of these candidates were not natives of Spanish or English, not as a reasoning test, but they were bringing other languages for the reasoning. They were asking for French, Portuguese, Polish, Greek, Italian. So that's why we have created now the self-study of the reasoning with these languages. So ideally for you, remember, our reasoning test or reasoning training, that tends to be quite difficult. It's quite challenging. So it's not for everyone. If you try it, we promise you, you will feel a bit depressed at the beginning, because usually the first experience when people try it is that, for God's sake, it cannot be so difficult. It's really, really tough. Yeah, we did it on purpose because we want you to train you with the highest level. Because after following these exercises, after following this training, we bet that whatever exam, whatever competition you have in front of you, will keep things under control. You will remain calm. Whatever the level of difficulty you will see. Oh, this is the EPSO exercise. Not so difficult. Oh, this catch from the SMOs, that was difficult, but this, not so much. No, that's what we want. We want that you say, oh, you damn bastards. I really suffered with your practice, but now I passed the competition. Excellent. Our job is done. That's what we are trying. So if you dare to take this training, please don't complain that it's difficult, because we already warning you. It's difficult, but with what purpose? You can try as many times as you want the exercises. There's no limit for the practice. There's a lot of explanations in each exercise. So each exercise includes a good analysis, a good explanation of the solution, so you can work on that. So for your own learning, as we mentioned before, the idea is that you learn from you learn from your mistakes. That's the purpose of this. Okay, so we invite you to visit our offer of trainings, and feel free to get it. And of course, remember, if you've been already a candidate in our trainings, in the SMO Service training, you have a special discount. So don't forget that. And last but not least, don't forget to follow us on our social media: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We advise you to follow the Telegram channel, the WhatsApp channel, because all the notifications will get you immediately. While in social media, Instagram usually doesn't show up the first, but LinkedIn works quite well, and also YouTube. So click there. And if you like this video, if you found it useful, don't forget to click like, because it will help us with the algorithm, and it will help you to get more information about the EPSO competitions and our videos, free material that we keep sharing here. So hope you found this useful, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.